Heidi Pett is a radio presenter and producer for FBI Radio Sydney and the co-host of the show Backchat. Would it be alright to say that you're interested in politics, music, and judging from your Twitter feed, a bit of humour too? So what drew you to journalism? Tell us a bit about your background before you landed this job.
That's a really tricky question. Well, I guess I was always interested in journalism, but I actually thought for a long time that I wanted to do law. I studied law for a couple of years and I wanted to be a human rights lawyer and change the world. My role as a journalist, that's the one question that you really don't want to be asked in a job interview because you get judged so harshly on the answer. Record the truth so that people can't lie about things later. So to put things down on record and have them in the public realm. But I'm definitely not there yet. I'm not a war correspondent or anything like that. So I suppose my main aim at the moment, and I see my role as getting young people engaged in politics and current affairs. So that's a big part of what we do with Backchat is we talk about it in a much more casual way, and we made a deliberate decision to do that and to not try and put on a news reporter's voice or to put on this, know-it-all kind of persona. We decided that we really wanted to approach things with genuine curiosity because I think people respond to that so much better. Instead of coming across as a reporter who already knows all the answers, instead actually just asking really genuine questions that someone would want to know. And I think that gets people engaged and that gets people interested. And that's where you will hopefully see somebody who then does become interested enough to affect some sort of change on whatever it is. We always have something that we want to get out of an interview. Often you'll have a hook or something that's been in the news that week and you'll have an answer to a specific question that you want, and then you'll kind of let people go off on tangents and just sort of see where it goes. But I suppose to prepare for those sorts of interviews, we do as much research as we can on the particular topic. So when we had Malcolm Turnbull on the show a little while ago, it was to do with his views on marriage equality, and we also wanted to ask him about the NBN. So we invited him on the show to talk about marriage equality, but we also knew that we wanted to ask him some questions about the rollout of the NBN. So we actually do ask the audience to really get involved in what we talk to people about, but it is a bit of a mix between what we would personally really like to know from people and trying to keep our audience in mind as well. We have quite a specific audience on Backchat because our idea was to provide an alternative to talkback. So a lot of people find traditional talkback really, really alienating. It's basically a bunch of old white dudes on the radio, and we thought that perhaps we could do something a little bit different for younger listeners. With any sort of journalistic ethics, the real issue is time. Obviously, everyone would love to be able to fact check every single aspect of all of their stories, and it's something that we're getting better at because it's a really small team of volunteers. But the biggest thing, I suppose, is when somebody pitches a story to me. So I sort of look after most of the editorial direction of the show. And when somebody pitches a story to me, if they're only talking to people from one side of the issue, you just always have to make sure that, you say, okay, what about these people? And you do a bit of a brainstorming exercise, which is called a stakeholders exercise, where you sort of put it in the middle there. And you think of every single person who might be affected by that issue, whether it's their livelihood or their quality of life, as many different viewpoints as you possibly can, and then look for the most relevant ones to include in the final package. But I think so long as you consider everything right at the start, you've got a good chance of having your bases covered. We did a special broadcast as part of International Women's Day. It was this big digital radio pop-up station all around the country called Girls to the Mic. And the big thing about that, and it's a question of ethics and including all sides of a story, but particularly around diversity and representation. So in that case, the issue was making sure that we included women from different religious backgrounds and different ethnic backgrounds, but also importantly that we included women from the LGBTI community, and we made sure that we had a trans woman on the show to talk about issues around trans women on International Women's Day and that sort of thing. But it's too late if you get to the week of the show and you think, oh God, we don't have any diversity in the program. Quick, we better pick someone that we're going to talk to about that specific issue. So what we actually did in that case was we spoke to a trans woman who is a radio reporter, and we actually got her involved in the story. So instead of talking to someone, if you actually get people involved in the story from the very beginning, it's not just paying lip service to something, you're really allowing people to help. We try and be a little bit cheeky or a little bit genuinely curious, or we ask questions that are a bit different. Because I figure that's what we have to offer.